The quantum comm crackled with static as Dr. Maya Chen stared at the holographic display before her. 6,000 light-years from Earth, she was humanity's final diplomatic card in a game they hadn't known they were playing. The massive structure of the Nexus assembly loomed outside her ship's viewport, a twisted maze of crystalline architecture that defied Euclidean geometry. "You are cleared for approach, Ambassador Chen," came the artificial voice of the Nexus traffic control. "Please maintain your current trajectory. Any deviation will be considered hostile action." Maya squared her shoulders, checking her reflection in the darkened screen. At 42, her short black hair was streaked with premature gray, a testament to 15 years of first contact missions. But it was her eyes that held the weight of humanity's future, dark and determined. The docking procedure was automated, her small diplomatic vessel guided by invisible fields into the heart of the Nexus assembly. As the airlock cycled, Maya reviewed what little they knew about the collective. 23 species, all linked by some form of psychic connection, all impossibly advanced, and all unanimously terrified of humanity. The first contact had been a disaster. The Nexus representatives had recoiled from the human delegates as if physically struck. In the 3 years since, humanity had been quarantined, confined to their solar system by a blockade of ships that could rearrange matter with a thought. The airlock opened with a soft hiss, revealing a corridor that seemed to breathe, its walls pulsing with bioluminescent patterns. 2 figures waited for her, their bodies tall and willowy, skin like polished opal that shifted colors with each movement. The Prisma, one of the founding races of the Nexus. "Ambassador," the taller one spoke, its voice resonating directly in her mind. "I am First Speaker Ixal. This is Coordinator Corel." The shorter Prisma inclined its head, its skin rippling with patterns of deep blue and gold. "Thank you for receiving me," Maya replied, keeping her voice steady. She had trained for this, had spent months learning to project calm and openness in the face of alien scrutiny. But nothing could have prepared her for the sensation of being studied by beings who could read the thoughts of entire species. "Your kind," Ixal began, then paused, its skin flickering with patterns of distress. "You are discordant. Even now, your thoughts, they do not follow the song." Maya felt a pressure in her mind, like the moment before a migraine. "I apologize if our neural patterns cause you discomfort. We're still learning about the differences between our species." Krell stepped forward, its patterns showing what Maya had learned to recognize as scientific curiosity. "It is more than mere discomfort, Ambassador. Your species represents something we have not encountered in 50,000 years of exploration. Your minds are chaos given form." They began walking, the corridor reshaping itself around them to form a path to what Maya assumed was the assembly chamber. The walls continued their hypnotic pulse, but now she noticed how the patterns seemed to recoil slightly as she passed. "The quarantine," Maya said carefully. "Was it implemented out of fear?" "Protection," Ixal corrected. "Both yours and ours. The Nexus functions through harmony, through the careful orchestration of thought and purpose across all member species. But humans," the first speaker's skin rippled with complex patterns of anxiety. "Humans generate cognitive resonance patterns that disrupt this harmony. Your thoughts create ripples in the song." They entered a vast chamber, its ceiling lost in shadows that seemed to move with purpose. Arranged in concentric circles were representatives of the Nexus species, some humanoid, others defying description. All of them turned to stare at Maya as she entered, and she felt thousands of alien minds brush against her consciousness. Krell's patterns shifted to something Maya hadn't seen before. "What fascinates us, Ambassador, is that this chaos appears to be essential to your function. We have studied your history, your achievements. Your species progresses through discord, through the collision of opposing ideas. You create through destruction, find unity through conflict. It defies everything we understand about consciousness." Maya absorbed this, understanding flowing like ice water through her veins. You're saying we're immune to your psychic influence. That's why you fear us. The chamber erupted in patterns of light and color, the assembled representatives radiating waves of confirmation and concern. Ixal's form became almost transparent with agitation. Not just immune, Ambassador. Your mere presence creates interference. The longer you remain in proximity to our kind, the more our connection to the song fragments. You are like a virus in our consensus, or catalysts for evolution, Corell interjected, earning sharp color changes from several nearby representatives. Think first speaker, a species that achieves harmony through discord, unity through diversity. The implications are dangerous, Ixal cut in, which is why you have been summoned, Ambassador Chen. The Synaptic Guild has taken notice of your kind. Maya felt her heart rate increase. I don't understand. Who is the Synaptic Guild? Corell's patterns darkened to deep indigo. They are the architects of consciousness, Ambassador. The ones who helped forge the original connections between our species, and they believe your kind represents either the greatest threat to galactic harmony or its next evolution. The chamber's shadows seemed to deepen, and Maya realized with a start that they were moving with purpose, watching her. She stood straighter, feeling the weight of humanity's future pressing down on her shoulders. What exactly does the Guild want with us? Ixal's form shimmered with reluctance. They wish to study you, to understand how your chaotic cognition achieves what our carefully orchestrated harmony cannot. They believe that understanding human consciousness could be the key to transcending our current limitations. And if we refuse, the chamber fell silent, even the walls ceasing their pulse. Corell stepped closer, its patterns showing what Maya could only interpret as concern. Ambassador, it said softly, I don't believe they intend to give humanity a choice. The observation deck of Corell's research vessel offered an unobstructed view of the quarantine line. Maya watched as patrol ships cut elegant arcs through space, their crystalline forms refracting starlight like cosmic prisms. 3 months had passed since her introduction to the assembly, and humanity's situation had only grown more precarious. Another mining vessel was intercepted yesterday, Corell said, its form shifting through shades of concern. The Guild's agents are becoming bolder. Maya pressed her hand against the transparent barrier, her reflection overlaying the distant stars. How many? 17 crew members, all taken for study. Corell's patterns darkened. None have been returned. The words hung between them like a physical presence. Since the Guild's interest in humanity had become known, ships had begun disappearing from the edges of human space. Official reports called them accidents, statistical anomalies in the vast darkness between stars. But Maya and Corell knew better. Show me what you found, Maya said, turning from the viewport. Corell's form rippled with hesitation before it generated a holographic display. Complex neural patterns filled the air between them, some orderly and synchronized, others chaotic and unpredictable. These are comparative scans, Corell explained. The ordered patterns are from various Nexus species. The chaotic ones, it paused, patterns shifting to deep purple. They're human. Maya studied the displays, noting how the human patterns seemed to dance and shift, never settling into a recognizable rhythm. And this is why we can't be controlled. Because our thoughts don't follow predictable patterns. It's more than that. Corell manipulated the display, zooming in on particular sections. Your chaos isn't random. It's generative. When exposed to human neural patterns, our own patterns begin to exhibit increased variation. Small at first, but the effect compounds over time. Maya remembered the recoiling walls in the assembly, the way the Nexus representatives had drawn back from her presence. We're changing you. Yes, and that's what terrifies the Guild. Corell's form became almost transparent with agitation. They've spent millennia cultivating perfect harmony among conscious species. Humans represent a fundamental challenge to their understanding of consciousness itself. A soft chime interrupted them. Maya recognized it as Corell's equivalent of an urgent communication. The prisma's patterns shifted rapidly as it processed the incoming information. "What is it?" Maya asked, though the darkening of Corell's colors already told her it wasn't good news. "The Guild has made its move. They're calling for an emergency session of the Assembly. They're going to propose classifying humanity as a cognitive pathogen." Maya felt her blood run cold. What would that mean for Earth? Quarantine would become containment. Your colonies would be dismantled. Earth itself might be placed under a consciousness suppression field. Corell's patterns showed distress. They would effectively end humanity's ability to influence the rest of the galaxy. "They can't do that," Maya protested. "We have rights under the contact treaties." "The treaties only apply to species capable of harmonious integration," Corell interrupted. "If you're classified as a pathogen, those protections vanish." Maya began pacing, her mind racing through possibilities. There has to be something we can do. Some way to prove we're not a threat. Corell's patterns shifted to a color Maya had never seen before, something between hope and fear. "There might be, but you won't like it. Tell me." "The Guild's power comes from their monopoly on understanding consciousness. But what if we could prove that human chaos isn't a danger, but the next step in cognitive evolution?" Corell generated new holographic displays, these showing complex mathematical models. "I've been studying the way human neural patterns influence ours. The changes aren't degradation. They're optimization." Maya stopped pacing, studying the new data. "You're saying we make you better, more adaptive, more creative. The chaos you introduce into our patterns, it creates potential for new forms of thought." Corell's excitement was visible in its rapidly shifting colors. "But to prove it, we'd need access to the Guild's own research. And for that, we'd need to infiltrate their facility." Maya finished, understanding dawning. "Where is it?" "The Deep Archive, in the core of the Nexus Assembly itself." Corell's patterns dimmed. "It's the most heavily guarded location in known space, and it's protected by consciousness barriers that would detect any Nexus species attempting unauthorized entry." "But not a human," Maya said slowly, "because our patterns don't register properly." "Exactly. But Maya," Corell moved closer, its form rippling with concern. "If you're caught, the Guild won't just study you. They'll take you apart, consciousness and all, trying to understand how you work." Maya turned back to the viewport, watching the patrol ships cutting their endless patterns through space. Somewhere beyond them, Earth waited, its people unaware of how close they were to being caged forever. "When do we start?" Corell's patterns shifted to a deep, resolute blue. "There's something else you should know. The Guild, they're not just studying the humans they've taken. They're trying to replicate your neural patterns to understand how to generate controlled chaos." "Why would they want that?" "Because if they can understand it, they can control it. And if they can control chaos itself." Corell's form became almost crystalline with intensity. "They would have power over consciousness itself." Maya felt the weight of billions of lives, human and alien, settling onto her shoulders. "Then we better make sure we get to their research first." The patrol ships continued their dance outside, their perfect patterns suddenly seeming less like protection and more like prison bars. In the reflection of the viewport, Maya saw her own expression harden with determination. The Guild thought human chaos was a weakness to be controlled. She was about to show them just how powerful disorder could be. The descent into the Deep Archive felt like falling through layers of consciousness itself. Maya watched as the crystalline walls around their transport pod shifted from transparent to increasingly opaque shades of darkness, each layer resonating with different frequencies of thought. "The archive exists in a quantum state between physical and mental space," Corell explained, its form barely visible in the deepening gloom. "The Guild stores information not in computers or data crystals, but in crystallized consciousness itself." Maya adjusted the neural dampener Corell had fabricated, a delicate crown of living metal that helped mask what little of her thought patterns might be detectable. "And you're sure this will work?" The dampener combined with your natural chaos patterns should make you virtually invisible to the archive's defenses. Corell's colors shifted anxiously. But Maya, what we're about to see, few outside the guild have ever witnessed it. The transport pod came to rest in what appeared to be a vast cavern, though Maya's eyes told her the space couldn't possibly exist within the physical dimensions of the assembly. Columns of crystallized thought rose like frozen lightning, each one containing millennia of accumulated knowledge. "Remember," Corell whispered, its patterns dimming to near invisibility, "I can guide you to the human research section, but I can't get too close. My presence would trigger the security protocols." Maya nodded, stepping out of the pod. The floor beneath her feet seemed to pulse with stored information, each step sending ripples through the crystalline surface. She moved carefully between the columns, following Corell's transmitted directions while the prisma remained at a safe distance. The human research section was immediately recognizable. The crystals here were chaotic, shot through with fractures and irregular patterns that contrasted sharply with the ordered structure of the surrounding archives. But it was what Maya saw within those crystals that made her blood run cold. Suspended in the crystalline matrix were images of the missing humans, their consciousness patterns frozen in various states of analysis. The guild hadn't just been studying them. They had been systematically deconstructing human minds, trying to isolate the elements that made them unique. "Corell," Maya sub-vocalized into their secure comlink. "Are they still alive, after a fashion?" Corell responded, its mental voice tight with distress. "The guild can preserve consciousness indefinitely in these matrices. They've been experimenting with combining human chaos patterns with Nexus harmony." Maya moved deeper into the section, each crystal revealing more horrors. She saw hybrid consciousness patterns, failed attempts to splice human unpredictability with alien order. But it was the latest experiments that truly revealed the guild's intentions. "They're not trying to understand us," Maya realized, her voice barely a whisper. "They're trying to weaponize us." The newest crystals showed consciousness patterns that seemed to vibrate with controlled chaos, human unpredictability harnessed and directed like a blade. The guild was developing ways to turn humanity's greatest strength into a tool for domination. A sudden shift in the archive's ambient light made Maya freeze. "Corell, something's wrong." "Security sweep." Corell's response came quickly. "They must have detected an anomaly." "Maya, you need to." The warning came too late. A barrier of pure thought materialized around Maya, its surface writhing with patterns of containment and analysis. From the shadows between the crystals, figures emerged. Guild archivists, their forms so heavily modified with crystalline augmentations that they barely resemble their original species. "Fascinating," one of them spoke, its voice resonating directly in Maya's mind. "A human consciousness, here in the deep archive. And look how it disrupts the harmonics around it." Maya felt pressure building in her head as the archivists attempted to probe her thoughts. The neural dampener sparked and crackled, overwhelmed by their combined power. "Stop." Corell's voice rang out as the Prisma scientist revealed itself, its patterns blazing with protective fury. "You don't understand what you're doing. Human consciousness isn't meant to be weaponized. The chaos patterns are part of a larger system." The lead archivist turned its crystalline face toward Corell. "Ah, the rogue researcher, your interference in guild matters ends today." It gestured, and Maya watched in horror as crystalline tendrils began to encase Corell's form. But something unexpected happened. Where the crystals touched Corell, they began to fragment. Influenced by the trace amounts of human chaos patterns the Prisma had absorbed during its time with Maya. "You've been contaminated," the archivist hissed, real fear entering its voice for the first time. Maya felt it then, a resonance building between her own chaos patterns and the stored consciousness of the captured humans. The neural dampener wasn't just hiding her thoughts, it was amplifying them, broadcasting them through the crystalline network of the archive. The captured human consciousness patterns began to resonate in response, their combined chaos creating cascading disruptions throughout the archive structure. Cracks appeared in the perfect crystalline columns as order began to break down. "Corel," Maya shouted over the growing disturbance. "The patterns, they're synchronizing." "Impossible," the archivist declared, but its voice held uncertainty. "Chaos cannot synchronize. It cannot create harmony." But Maya understood now. "You're wrong," she said, standing straighter as the barrier around her began to fluctuate. "Chaos doesn't destroy harmony. It creates new forms of it. That's what you never understood about humans. Our disorder isn't a weakness, it's how we grow." The archive trembled as more consciousness patterns began to resonate, not just human ones but nexus patterns as well, influenced by the spreading chaos into new and impossible configurations. The perfect order of millennia was being transformed into something entirely new. Krell broke free of the crystalline containment, its patterns showing wonder and fear in equal measure. "Maya, the entire archive is destabilizing. If this continues, then let it continue," Maya said firmly, watching as the walls of the deep archive began to pulse with new patterns, neither purely chaotic nor purely ordered, but something in between. "It's time for the galaxy to learn a new song." The assembly chamber was in upheaval. Representatives from every nexus species crowded the vast space, their consciousness patterns creating a storm of colors and emotions that made the very walls pulse with distress. Maya stood at the center of it all, Corel by her side, as the transformed knowledge from the deep archive continued to ripple through the collective consciousness of the Nexus. First Speaker Ixel's form flickered between transparency and solidity as it addressed the chamber. "The containment protocols have failed. The archive's transformation is spreading through all connected systems. What the human has done is unprecedented," one of the surviving guild archivists declared, its crystalline form showing fracture patterns that hadn't been there before. "The contamination must be stopped before." "Before what?" Maya interrupted, her voice carrying through the chamber. "Before your perfect system adapts, evolves. Isn't that what consciousness is supposed to do?" The chamber erupted in a cascade of thought patterns, some fearful, others curious, and a growing number showing signs of the new harmony, the blend of chaos and order that had begun in the archive. Krell stepped forward, its patterns displaying complex equations and neural maps. "Look at the data. The human chaos patterns aren't destroying our consciousness network. They're optimizing it, creating new pathways, new possibilities." On the massive displays that circled the chamber, evidence of the transformation was undeniable. Species that had been in direct contact with humans showed increased cognitive flexibility, enhanced creative problem-solving, and most surprisingly, stronger individual identities while maintaining their connection to the collective. "The Guild promised us perfection through absolute harmony," Krell continued, "but they gave us stagnation instead. Human chaos isn't a pathogen. It's the catalyst we needed to break free from our self-imposed limitations." Maya watched as understanding began to spread through the assembly. The fear was still there, but it was being tempered by something else. Hope. The rigid patterns that had defined Nexus consciousness for millennia were softening, allowing for variation and individual expression, while maintaining the underlying connection that bound them together. "You don't understand what you're risking," the Guild archivist protested, but its voice held less conviction now. "The system we built was built on control," Maya finished. "You were so focused on maintaining perfect harmony that you forgot why consciousness exists in the first place: to grow, to change, to evolve." She gestured to the humans who had been freed from the archive, their consciousness patterns now stabilized but forever changed by their experience. "Look at what we achieved together, not through dominance or control, but through genuine cooperation. Human chaos and Nexus harmony, working in concert to create something entirely new." The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Above them, the displays showed the spread of the new consciousness patterns, not just through the Nexus core systems, but reaching out to the furthest colonies and outposts. First Speaker Ixel moved to the center of the chamber, its form finally stabilizing into something that combined its traditional patterns with new, more dynamic elements. The human speaks truth. We have felt it ourselves. The change bringing not destruction, but renewal. The Guild archivist made one final attempt to regain control. The treaties. The treaties were written to protect consciousness in all its forms, Ixal interrupted. And today, we have discovered a new form. One that proves our assumptions about harmony and chaos were fundamentally flawed. Maya felt Corell's patterns shift beside her, showing a complex mixture of triumph and anticipation. The question now, the scientist said, is what we do with this discovery. The chamber erupted in a new kind of chaos, not the fearful disorder of before, but the productive chaos of genuine debate and discussion. Representatives who had never questioned the Guild's authority were suddenly proposing new ideas, suggesting experiments, offering to work with human researchers to better understand the potential of their combined consciousness patterns. We stand at a threshold. Maya addressed the assembly. Humanity doesn't want to disrupt your harmony. We want to help you enhance it. To show you that true unity doesn't come from enforced conformity, but from embracing and celebrating our differences. The displays above showed the transformation continuing, spreading like a wave of possibility through the connected consciousness of the Nexus. But unlike before, it wasn't being resisted. Species after species was choosing to accept the change, to allow their perfect patterns to be enriched by controlled chaos. The quarantine, Ixal announced, its patterns showing newfound resolution, is hereby lifted. Humanity will be invited to join the Nexus, not as subjects to be studied or controlled, but as partners in the greatest transformation our civilization has ever undertaken. The Guild archivist and its followers withdrew into the shadows, their power broken by the very force they had sought to contain. But Maya knew this wasn't the end. It was barely the beginning. Together, she said, looking out at the assembled representatives of a civilization on the brink of Renaissance, we're going to rewrite the song of consciousness itself. 1 year after the transformation of the Deep Archive, Maya stood on the observation deck of the new Human Nexus Cooperation Center, watching ships from across the galaxy dock at its crystalline berths. Each vessel carried researchers, diplomats, and explorers eager to participate in what had become known as the Great Synthesis. The latest results from the consciousness integration studies are remarkable, Corell said, materializing beside her. The Prisma's form had evolved over the past year, now displaying a harmonious blend of traditional patterns and dynamic chaos that characterize the new Nexus consciousness. Maya smiled, noting how the walls no longer recoiled from her presence, but instead resonated subtly with her thoughts. Show me. Corell generated a holographic display, filling the air between them with streams of consciousness data. The patterns were beautiful, intricate dances of order and chaos, showing how human and Nexus minds were learning to work together in ways neither species had imagined possible. We've confirmed that human chaos patterns, when properly integrated, actually strengthen the collective consciousness rather than disrupting it, Corell explained, its colors shifting with excitement. It's like adding harmonics to a simple tone, creating a richer, more complex symphony. The display shifted to show various success stories. A human Prisma research team had developed new forms of faster-than-light travel by applying chaos theory to quantum navigation. A group of human artists working with crystalline consciousness specialists had created new forms of art that existed simultaneously in physical and mental space. And the Guild loyalists? Maya asked, though she already knew the answer. Still in isolation, refusing to accept the changes, Corell confirmed. But their influence wanes with each new breakthrough. Even their own apprentices are leaving to join the synthesis projects. Maya turned as the observation deck's doors opened, admitting a delegation of new arrivals. She recognized representatives from Earth's leading research institutions, along with several non-human species she had never seen before. The newcomers' consciousness patterns showed varying degrees of integration, some still primarily ordered, others already beginning to exhibit controlled chaos. Ambassador Chen, One of the Earth scientists greeted her. "We've just received approval for the Consciousness Expansion Initiative. We're ready to begin teaching humans how to safely access the Nexus network." This was what Maya had been working toward, not just cooperation between species, but true integration. Humans learning to extend their consciousness into the Nexus while maintaining their unique chaos patterns, and Nexus species learning to incorporate human unpredictability without losing their fundamental harmony. There are still challenges ahead, Carell noted, its patterns showing thoughtful concern. Not everyone is ready for such dramatic changes. Some fear we're moving too quickly. Maya watched as a group of human children toured the center with their Nexus counterparts, their young minds already adapting to the new possibilities with characteristic flexibility. "Change is always frightening," she said, "but look at what we've achieved in just 1 year." The holographic displays showed scenes from across known space, new hybrid technologies emerging from combined human Nexus research, diplomatic missions venturing into previously unexplored regions, artistic and cultural exchanges that transcended the boundaries of physical space. "We're not just sharing technology or resources," Maya continued. "We're sharing ways of thinking, of being." The Nexus feared human chaos would destroy their harmony. But instead, it's helping them break free from stagnation. And humans are learning that true individualism doesn't mean isolation. It means bringing our unique perspectives to a greater whole. Carell's patterns shifted to show agreement. The old guild believed consciousness could only exist in perfect order. They never understood that consciousness itself is an endless dance between chaos and harmony. A soft chime announced an incoming transmission. Maya activated the display to show first speaker Ixel, its form now a stunning example of the new consciousness synthesis. "Ambassador Chen." Ixel's mental voice carried notes of both structure and spontaneity. "The Council has approved your proposal. The Human Nexus Exchange Program will begin immediately. We are ready to accept the first wave of human consciousness explorers." Maya felt a surge of pride and hope. This was why she had fought so hard, not just to prevent humanity's containment, but to open doors for both civilizations. "Thank you, first speaker. We won't let you down." As the transmission ended, Maya turned back to the viewport. The stars seemed brighter somehow, as if reflecting the new possibilities that had opened up for all conscious beings. The galaxy was entering an unprecedented age of discovery and growth, driven by the very force the Guild had feared, the productive chaos of human thought combined with the structured harmony of the Nexus. "You know," Carell said softly, its patterns showing a complex blend of emotion. "When I first met you in the assembly chamber, I never imagined we'd end up here." Maya watched as another ship docked, this one carrying the next group of human volunteers ready to explore the frontiers of consciousness itself. "That's the beauty of chaos, Carell. It shows us possibilities we never could have planned for." The observation deck hummed with the combined consciousness patterns of dozens of species, each contributing their own unique notes to the new symphony of existence. It wasn't perfect harmony. It was something better. It was growth, change, and endless potential, all bound together by the courage to embrace the unknown. The future they had created wasn't just about survival or coexistence. It was about transcendence, about proving that the greatest achievements come not from enforcing order or embracing chaos, but from finding the strength to dance between them both.